On April 25, 2016, a massive 7.9 magnitude earthquake struck the mountains of Nepal, followed by hundreds of aftershocks, some as high as 6.7 and 7.3 on the Richter scale. 10,000 people died. It was the worst earthquake to have struck Nepal in over 80 years. 3 million people lost their homes and their livelihood in one of the poorest countries of the world. This is a story about a remote village and the efforts of a small group of volunteers to help bring life back to normal. Tippling is a group of remote villages in northeastern Nepal. The people there came from nearby Tibet centuries ago to build a life on difficult land with little fertile soil and limited pasture for cattle. People continue to live much like their ancestors did centuries ago, in a society based on mutual help, generosity, and friendship. Conditions are harsh. The only access is along high mountain passes that are often blocked during the winter and the monsoon rains. It is a 2-day climb. Materials must be carried on the backs of people and donkeys. 2/3 of the adult men are forced to work elsewhere, sometimes for decades, to save up enough money to build a modest family home. Tippling was declared a 100% disaster zone. Every single structure was damaged by the quake, destroying generations of hard work. On that fateful day, Russian Tibetologist Yelena Nikolaeva and a small group of people were trekking a scant 20 kilometers from the epicenter of the earthquake.
I still see it all when I close my eyes. We happened to be 20 kilometers from the epicenter of the earthquake. Landslides came down on both sides, literally 100 meters from us. It's a sheer miracle we're all alive today. Being in this earthquake changed everything for me. Those images are like nails in my brain. I can't let them out. I need to do something to help those affected to rebuild their lives.
With help from friends, family, and small NGOs like Fantastic Initiative, they got some basic supplies to these isolated villages. By attending community meetings, they began to understand the long-term needs that were crucial to a recovery. Priority was given to the reconstruction of Tippling's primary school. It was damaged beyond repair, and temporary classes were being held in the rubble. Almost everyone is still living in tents, on dirt floors. Corrugated metal, wood, and canvas are what many call home.
Parents understood how vital it was for their children to return to the normal routine of school life. So we put together a plan to rebuild a school that would be both earthquake-proof and eco-friendly.
Private donations and non-government organizations provided enough money to build a new school. Unfortunately, in the wake of the disaster, the Nepalese government implemented new building codes that would triple the cost. Thankfully, another NGO took on the building of the school, and now there was enough money to provide a proper water supply. The village's aqueduct system was destroyed. The school would need an entirely new source of water. With the village committee, they decided to harness water from 2 springs in the forest above the village. This meant setting up a camp, building a new tank at the site, and digging a deep trench 1.5 kilometers long. Barbed wire would be needed to protect these sources from contamination by cattle. Russian journalist and jack-of-all-trades Roman Grusov became the project coordinator. He organized the 2.5 tons of materials to be carried up the mountain by porters and donkeys. Transportation costs were very high. Each family volunteered a member to dig and lay the water pipes.
By then, winter had already set in. Days were becoming shorter and colder, the ground was frozen, and the terrain was full of obstacles. Road for the upper pass also got closed at that time. So when digging the trench, we had to bypass some inaccessible stretches and rocks, and also go around private fields. At one point, the workers even had to hang themselves with the ropes on a cliff overlooking the river, 300 meters below. It took us about 22 days to complete the trench, then another week to build the tank, with porters carrying up to 40 or 50 kgs of sand on their backs up the steep hill, because the only available sand was on the river. And once the pipes were finally connected, the pressure has built up and the weak joints began to burst as the old pipes were leaking and the pressure was too high for that old water system. So we had to repair that as well. Now the water pressure is relatively strong in the whole upper village, and the school construction can begin and have water on the site. Life has improved at least a bit for these people and the children. And what is also probably important is that we did it together, that the local community had participated. Now it takes about 2 minutes to fill a bucket with clean water, and people are quite happy.
Roman was good at improvising solutions at every stage of the work. The project was successfully completed in 6 weeks at a cost of only $8,000. The lower village, however, where the poorest live, was still without direct access to water, and they approached Roman for help. Fortunately, their collecting tank was only partially damaged, and the taps were still in place. Together, they designed a new system with deeper trenches connected to the newly restored sources. Roman barely managed to secure the necessary funds, mostly from private donations, and the rest from the Australian relief project, Remote Village. Often working well into the night, all piping was replaced and all leaks were fixed within the space of 2 weeks.
As we finished that project, with all these people, about 30 or 40 of them participating and working so hard, I didn't want to just leave abruptly. So we have bought a goat and made sort of a feast or a party with people of both villages attending it to eat, dance and sing. And they even made a special song to us, the outside volunteers, which was roughly translated to me as something like, "You brought us the water in a big pipe and your names will be big now too."
Yelena and Roman continue to develop other projects to improve life in the area. There are smaller, more isolated villages like Puru further up the mountain. The children there must walk to school every day along treacherous trails. It is dark and icy during the winter and slippery during the monsoon. One wrong step can be fatal. Thankfully, once again, Australian Relief Project, Remote Village, furnished enough solar-powered lamps for each household, but they had to be carried in. They are reliable, easy to carry, and can be charged even in indirect sunlight. The children can now walk to school safely and do their homework at night with no need for kerosene lamps. After the solar lights were received in Peru, people from other villages arrived and asked if it was possible to get some for their children as well. So far, this partnership has accomplished what many had thought impossible. The Nepalese government and its infrastructures are still overwhelmed. Working together with villagers and staying close to their needs has been essential at every step, but there is still so much to do. Outside help will be crucial in years to come to build safer homes and provide adequate and sustainable sources of light, water, and sanitation. Thank you.